and if you can be seated for the entire thing, other than when you come up to speak at the microphones, that would be the ideal scenario. So thank you so much, and I think the Lieutenant Governor's coming out very soon.
Hello, Bethlehem. Wow. Yeah, of course. Get my big head out of the way here.
Hello and welcome to the Steel Stacks Arts Quest Center in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm Megan Frank with PBS 39. Joining me on the stage, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, State Senator Lisa Boscola, and Easton Mayor Sal Panto. We are here today to talk about legalizing recreational marijuana. At this time, I will turn the stage over to you, Lieutenant Governor.
Oh, thank you. I was mayor of a steel town out west called Braddock, and our DNA is your DNA. Charles Schwab left U.S. Steel, the Carnegie plant in my community, the Edgar Thompson, came to this area and founded Bethlehem Steel. So it's like our communities are connected. And I believe, if somebody can point out otherwise, I'm the only mayor in America that lives across the street from a steel mill, a functioning steel mill. So it's an honor to be in your community. But an even greater honor is the fact that you would take time out of a beautiful Sunday afternoon to come out and talk about this. So thank you. It's my job. I should be here. It's not your job. You could be watching Netflix. You could be walking the dog. You could be taking a nap. You could be doing 10 different things, but you're here. I'm also deeply honored to have our local leaders here as well, too, to join in this conversation as well, too. Senator, would you like to?
I'm just so thrilled to have the Lieutenant Governor here, just newly elected, and just jumping right into an issue that, you know, other states or some have legalized marijuana, other states are thinking about it, and so we have to have these conversations. And that he's on the tour to every single county, and now here in Northampton, I'm just honored, and I'm here just to listen too, to see what you have to say. You're all my constituents practically, so I want to know what you're thinking. And maybe just later I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
The senator says maybe. I'll tell you what, Lieutenant Governor, we are so proud to have you here. First of all, you are a progressive leader that is really going to shake up our state, which needs to be shaken up. As a local official, I can't deal with this topic. But the Lieutenant Governor and the Senator can. This is state law, and we've had major debates and conversations in Easton about what we should do and shouldn't do. And obviously I did vote against an ordinance that would legalize marijuana, or at least decriminalize marijuana in Easton, but I support it 100%. And last year at the Pennsylvania Municipal League, I introduced a resolution that unanimously passed to at least start with a decriminalization and on to legalization as well. So we're just very excited to have you in Lehigh Valley. I know you've had a whirlwind tour of the state so far. It's been very productive, and you're listening, and that's really important, so we appreciate that.
And a great segue to my brief introduction. This is an issue that a lot of people feel very passionate about, and on both sides. And in the 32 counties that I've been to so far, I've never once had to demand civility. It's always been offered. It's always been a natural byproduct of the conversation that we have. And I would just ask that we have that in this room today too. Now, I want to create a space where everyone is secure in sharing their opinions, no matter how pro they are, no matter how against it they are, whether they're unsure. I want everybody to feel 100% comfortable to say what they have to say about adult recreational marijuana. If you hear something that you particularly like, feel free to applaud. If you hear something that you don't, I just ask, no booing, jeering, no catcalling, no anything like that. Because it takes courage to get up and stand in front of people and share your views. And we want to encourage that as much as possible. And then finally, you have 3 ways to participate in this conversation. You can come to the microphone, one of the 2 microphones, and we hope that you do. But if you don't, my Deputy Chief of Staff, Shivanya, has handed out comment cards, and I would encourage you to fill one out and submit that. Or go online, and thus far over 25,000 of your fellow Pennsylvanians have done just that. They've filled in, and we analyze and track every single comment card and every single response online, and we tabulate it on a rolling basis. So your opinion really matters. It's really being paid attention to. And at the end of the event, before we go, you're of course welcome to leave at any time, but if you can stick around to the end, I ask for a show of hands. And all aye, all opposed, no, undecided. So you and everyone at home and everyone a month from now, 2 months from now, can see where this room was. And when this report is finally submitted, you'll be able to click on any county in Pennsylvania. Hey, what was Erie like? Hey, what was York like? What was Allegheny like? And you'll see for yourself, because our goal is 100% transparency. Have I called anyone and ask you to come to this meeting with your opinion, favorably? I have called our local leaders and invited our local leaders to come, but there's no right answer today, there's no wrong answer. It's just what you think. What I think on it isn't interesting. What is interesting is what you all think of it, and that's why we're here. And without any further ado, please, let's get started and form 2 lines at the microphone. And I would just ask that you keep your comments limited to around 90 seconds, please. Thank you very much.
There's another mic on the car.
There's a mic over there as well.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Governor. Over here, my name is Ed White. I live in Allentown, but I went to school here at Lehigh University in Bethlehem. I'm not a progressive, nor am I a liberal. I am actually a conservative Republican with libertarian leanings, and I have just a couple of comments for your listening pleasure. Number 1 is I believe that nowhere in the Constitution is marijuana mentioned. It's not a federal issue, that we need to lobby the federal government to remove marijuana as a controlled substance under federal law so that it does not impede the states in doing what is lawfully their province to regulate things within their states. Number 2, recognize that we have lost the war on drugs. We lost on prohibition. Drinking is legal, marijuana is not. That's a problem. I'm 58 years old. I've known many people that have smoked pot and many people that have consumed alcohol. I have never seen a violent stoned person, but I have seen many violent drunks. In my experience and in my opinion, I'm a retired lawyer. I did civil litigation. I handled DUI cases, Dram Shop Act cases, and all of them involved alcohol. I think it's important to distinguish between the effects of alcohol and drugs in a person's system. I think it's important to look at the science of metabolites in a person's bloodstream. And I think it's very important, and in fact constitutionally required, that we examine the person's conduct rather than simply possession. And 3 things that I'd just like you to consider when you lobby for whatever you want to have done is, number 1, it is illegal to carry a firearm concealed unless you have a permit. Pennsylvania is an open carry state, but we're currently in a different situation because of the state of emergency. It is not illegal to carry alcohol on your person in most places, and it's illegal to possess marijuana. I think the focus should be on what do you do with those things. If you commit a violent felony, you should go to jail. If you commit an act under the influence of alcohol or drugs of any kind, whether it's prescription, non-prescription, illegal, or legal, and you kill somebody, injure someone, or cause harm to the public, you should go to jail. If you merely possess a foreign substance or controlled substance under whatever the law is, and it harms no one, the government should stay the hell out of it and let people live their lives. We have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If someone wants to get stoned in their basement, let them. If they get behind the wheel, send them to jail. Thank you.
Candidate for District Attorney of Northampton County, and the reason I wanted to get up here today is, 1, I want to thank you for coming here, because this is an issue, as Mr. White just said, The war on drugs has failed us. 50 years of trying this is not working. So we're finally thinking outside of the box. We're finally thinking that drugs are something that need to be looked at as addiction as opposed to criminality. And I know I sound like I'm not a Republican, but I am a Republican running for district attorney because the criminal justice system does need reform. And this is a great thing, and I thank you very much for doing it. Thank you.
Yes, Lieutenant Governor Fetterman, good afternoon. My name is John Sosdi. I'm from Northampton. Thank you for taking the time and for your commitment to this recreational marijuana listening tour with two sharply divided sides to this issue. I'm sure you've heard many opinions, so I'll be brief. The Commonwealth is facing tough financial times. As such, I'm sure they view this issue as a great source of income. We constituents are facing the same financial concerns. However, we don't have the luxury of demanding a higher salary like the state does by raising taxes. So we make cuts to our budget. The state should do the same rather than raise taxes to unsustainable levels. However, more important than money is safety. Currently, there is no way of easily detecting if a driver is under the influence of marijuana. And since it remains in the bloodstream for weeks after the effects have passed, a blood test is also not reliable. This will only exacerbate the situation because many marijuana users are aware of the lack of detection and will drive under the influence. This will lead to more traffic accidents, more injuries, and more deaths. The roads are already getting less safe with all the distracted driving due to electronic devices.
So I would never speak for you, sir. But I'm going to ask to clarify. So, it sounds that you are opposed to legalizing it recreational.
Yes, almost right there. The major flaw with allowing recreational marijuana is that it will lead to a lot more drivers under the influence. To think this wouldn't happen is foolish. As someone who rides a motorcycle, I'm much more concerned than a typical car or truck driver. I don't want to become a victim. I hope that when you hear these opinions, you won't side with the majority, whatever side that may be. I hope and pray that the Commonwealth does the right thing in the interest of safety. And please put the constituents first. Thank you.
Can I have two follow-up questions?
Sure.
What are your views on our current medical marijuana program in Pennsylvania?
That's already legal and that's acceptable.
So you support medical marijuana?
Yes, for medical reasons, yes.
And then finally, what's your take on decriminalization of marijuana?
Decriminalization to a certain point, yes, but not while driving. And that's going to be a major flaw with the system. I don't know how you're going to regulate that. Right now, when you pull someone over because they're leaving, they're obviously drunk or something, you can smell their breath right away. You have PBTs, you can walk the line, and they take them back. But with marijuana, it's entirely different.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
views. Okay. You have the floor.
Hi, Becky Wamsley, resident of Bethlehem and also chair of Bethlehem City Democrats. Thank you for coming. I think this is an important discussion for all residents of Northampton County and the state. I just want to ask that when you are considering decriminalization and legalization of recreational marijuana, that, and I'm sure you've heard this before, that we have very serious discussions about commuting sentences of people who are actually already imprisoned for either dealing or possessing small or even larger amounts of marijuana. I think that there are disproportionately more black and brown people who are incarcerated for possessing and dealing marijuana than there are for white people. And I think that we have too many people stuck in our system right now that maybe they could have had a different chance if marijuana was actually, or recreational marijuana was actually legalized. So I just came to stress the importance of making sure that we continue to have that conversation, not just the conversation about whether or not marijuana should be legalized.
And I'll step out of my role as moderator. As Lieutenant Governor, I chair the Board of Pardons in Pennsylvania, so
Yes.
I would encourage anyone with a nonviolent marijuana possession or paraphernalia conviction to apply for a pardon, because we're going to look to streamline that process to free people.
Robert Wilson from Easton, PA. Shout out Mayor Panto. Avid marijuana user as it is. Just want to say, first things first, Declaration of Independence written on hemp paper. What's more American than that? We should probably legalize it. Thanks. What? Okay. Well, then I guess I look like a fool. See you later. It's no big deal. He said hemp's already legal, and I didn't know that, I guess. Whatever.
Well, hemp is legal, but what's your view on recreational marijuana use?
In the words of Peter Tosh, the late great Peter Tosh, legalize it.
Legalize it, okay.
Thank you. Senator, Mayor, Lieutenant Governor, thank you. I've had a chance to talk to all three of you in the past, and I appreciate that. My name is Richard Nicolazzi, and I'm a Pennsylvania licensed clinical social worker for the past 25 years, as well as a certified addictions counselor for many of those years. There are two things about me I'd like you to know. First, I'm a chronic pain patient of 22 years. I've had 13 orthopedic surgeries with more likely to come. I've been on opioid maintenance twice in the past, and I've had a spinal cord stimulator implanted for pain management. My doctor is telling me there are no more options for me. Second, I'm sober 28 years, yet one of my greatest fears is getting a DUI. One medication I take for pain is Neurontin. My first dose was 37.5 milligrams, and I fell asleep with my kids in the room. It's 10 years later, and I now take 3,600 milligrams of Neurontin daily, nearly 100 times that initial dose. Yet I'd never be considered DUI on Neurontin, or just about any other prescribed or over-the-counter medication, for that matter. Currently, Pennsylvania law states that you are DUI merely by the presence of 1 nanogram per milliliter in your blood. However, the abstract from the report Marijuana Impaired Driving, a report to Congress, prepared by the United States Department of Transportation in 2017 states, quote, setting per se metabolite levels is not meaningful, end quote. Getting a DUI for me would mean loss of license, jail time, fines, I'd lose my job, my home, everything. Plus, I'd have to be a student for the same DUI classes I taught over 20 years ago. Now that's irony. Thank you so much for doing this tour. It's nice to know that people up top are listening and making a real change. Much appreciated.
So it would sound that you support the legalization of recreation, or what are your views?
I do. I believe it's the best social policy, but I also believe that regulation is going to be the answer to anything successful. It has to be done correctly, and I think this is the right way. You're listening to what your constituents want, but it needs to be done in the correct way. My biggest fear, again, is getting a DUI. I'm legal in every other way. I might speed a little bit, but you know what I mean? And if I used last night, and I came here today and I got stopped on the way by the Bethlehem police, that's it. I get a DUI, and then I just become another one of the statistics. There are many of us in this room that are in the same 1 nanogram. 1 nanogram. It used to be 5 nanograms, and in 2011, for some reason, Pennsylvania dropped it down to 1 nanogram. So when other states have actually either eliminated or raised it, Pennsylvania went the other direction and doubled down. So I'm not quite sure what that was about.
Okay. Thank you.
Your hairstyle, Lieutenant Governor. My name's TJ Finnerty, and I've lost 175 pounds using medical cannabis and replaced 12 pharmaceutical failures with 1 flower. That is cannabis. The only currency that brought me here was my recovery coin. I had 25 years of continuous sobriety. I'm also a trained addictions counselor. I won the Chi Sigma Elder Award in counseling, actually. Like that. I couldn't behave myself, I have an M&M bag. And that's the point about chemical addictions. The war on drugs was a war on flower buds to sell drugs, in my opinion. And my spiritual message to you is we outlaw flowers before speed pharmaceutical failures and refill racial resentments. And the path to getting off drugs is through these flower buds. In 3 steps I can take you through the addictions crisis. 1, we are powerless without this plant. Our lives have become unmanageable. 2, it's time to come to believe that a power greater than our egos can recover us from sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will over to lives. Growth off drugs by following God's flower buds. I hope I put a little seed in your mind. What if all we had to do was buy flowers to help somebody find a way to getting off drugs? What if all we had to do was buy flowers to help somebody get over drinking? How about the suicidal getting over depression and finding gratitude over that? How about finding grace over disease just by letting the flowers grow and watch grass overcome drugs?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Sell. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to tell you my story. When I was 20 years old, I was convicted of felony delivery of 0.7 grams of marijuana. No, you did not mishear me. 0.7 grams. Like most Pennsylvanians, I owned a hunting rifle. Because of this, I nearly fell victim to the, at the time, minimum mandatory sentencing laws. I would have spent 5 years in state prison for 0.7 grams of marijuana. I'm an honest man. I'm a hard worker. I live cleanly. The war on drugs is a war on our own citizens. To any opponents of marijuana in the room, I would just like to say, this is the reality that you are fighting for.
Sorry. Your name again was Benjamin?
Yes.
I just would urge you to apply for a pardon, Benjamin, and get that off your record, okay?
It's on the agenda.
Hello, my name is Sean. I'm from Easton, PA, Northampton. Yes, I do believe in supporting legalization, but I would like to add a caveat because policy is very important. I would like to see potentially that we currently have state liquor stores in the state of Pennsylvania, and I would like to see that applied to marijuana as well. Is to ensure the quality of the products, because in other states that have legalized, that have private businesses, they can sell products at they have like 30% THC, but when they test it, it's actually 15%, and you have a quality issue. You're overcharging, and that's why, in essence, I support that the state should be involved in this area. And also, Pennsylvania is just generally a quirky state. We're a bunch of quirky people, aren't we? And quite honestly, we should take that revenue and invest in Pennsylvanians and infrastructure and the police and so on and so forth. And truly, I thank you all for coming here, listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Rolf Treisner. Last year, in February 11th, I think, I was taken to Hershey Medical Center. I was transferred from another hospital because Hershey did all my congenital heart work. Well, I was there, and they transferred me from Wilkes-Barre. And I'm laying there, and because I had a heart attack, of course, and all of a sudden I get surrounded by a bunch of cops, and they're arresting me for possession of marijuana because I told the nurse that I showed her, she asked me if I had any of my medicines on me, so I'm going through my bag, and I pull out what was a small blood. I use it for pain. So, I had to go through all sorts of litigation for that. I applied for my medical marijuana card, I got it, and that was a good thing. Except now I gotta reapply for it, and the expenses, you know, you're talking $300 for the visit, $50 for the card, and then you pay for it. Now the advantage though, and if they do this with recreational marijuana, you can get a marijuana that does this for this pain and this condition, and if you need to sleep, you can take this. They got it broken down. They got it down to science. And if you do that recreationally, that would be great, and it'd be much more regulated than just go out in the street and buy a bag, and then is it going to put you to sleep, or is it going to keep you awake? This way you know what you're buying, not just for medical people. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to say on that one.
Okay.
So,
All right.
thank you very
Thank
much.
Hello, Lieutenant Governor. My name is Greg. I'm just here to speak because I've seen how some of these laws actually affect people. One of the comments that people bring up is that if legalization happens, such as what to do as far as people driving, but as people have already shared, the law actually already does cover what to do if someone's driving. As you mentioned, it stays in the bloodstream for weeks. So I've actually had friends who have not smoked in weeks, and were weeks later convicted of a DUI for something that they did weeks ago. And so we already are able to test for it during the blood system, so that's what we do. But I think they're actually looking in some states of using a breathalyzer type of system to kind of solve that situation, because I know a lot of people are concerned about it. And I think another reason why we really need to consider legalization is because a lot of people are concerned about drug violence issues with Mexico, but America, the United States, we are some of the biggest consumers of drugs in the world. We fund that violence directly through all of that in Mexico. So if we were to turn to that and make it legal and do all of that in our own state, I think we would actually directly see violence levels drop because of that. And also, we have alcohol and tobacco are legal, and we need to get scientific here and look at facts. When you actually look at what the real gateway drug is, when you look at scientific studies, it's proven that alcohol and tobacco are the gateway drugs. You should be more concerned about children smoking cigarettes or teenagers drinking. That's where those gateway issues develop, where we have adults later in life. And adults smoking marijuana per se, that's not a gateway issue. That just is that's something that's working in all these other states and it's going fine. So we really just kind of need to drop this. We really just need to look at this from a scientific point of view. That's the way I would look at it. Alcohol and tobacco are more dangerous, yet they're legal. But it's just because we're used to that. Everyone's used to it, everyone's always had that. But now people are just like, oh, this wasn't like this before. Well, we need to look at the facts. That's all I have to say about it.
Hello, Lieutenant. My name is Eric. I'm a student at Kutztown University. And I just wanted to start off by saying that about 5 years ago, Colorado was the first state here in the U.S. to legalize marijuana recreationally. Ever since then, other states have followed suit, from as large as California to as small as Vermont and our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And in each of those states, dozens of longitudinal studies have been done on the long-term economic, social, criminal, and safety effects, positive and negative. To say that there are no negatives would be false, but to say that the negatives outweigh the positives, the evidence does not show that, and I personally do not believe that. Yes, marijuana is a high-risk behavior, but we as Americans engage in a lot of high-risk behaviors. The medication we take, either by prescription or over-the-counter, alcohol, tobacco, the way in which we eat, the way in which we drive, and many other things. With proper education, we can mitigate the harmful effects of marijuana legalization, and we can keep a lot of people from being thrown in prison because of it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Les Stark, and I'm the Executive Director of the Keystone Cannabis Coalition, a statewide organization fighting for the full legalization of cannabis. And I just wanted to say, in relation to what this last gentleman said, 2 weeks ago, I was working a big trade show in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I went to a cannabis shop and I got free legal cannabis. And it was very simple. You walk in, it's kind of like going into a head shop here where you might go get a smoking pipe or something like that. And then last week, we did another trade show in Denver, Colorado. It was called the NoCo Hemp Expo. And about 150 feet or so from my hotel, there was a legal cannabis shop. And I went there and I got it. And while we were there, we rented a car. We had to go to different places. We went to our friend's CBD manufacturing facility, and we got around the state a little bit. And I think most Coloradans would tell you, and we heard a person from Colorado tell us at the first event in Dauphin County, that for most Coloradans, the legalization of cannabis was pretty much a non-event. You can barely notice it.
you drive the roads, people talk about, you know, a lot of times you hear people say, oh, there's carnage all over the road. And then you're out there in Colorado and you're driving, and the only thing you're really thinking about is, wow, look how beautiful the Rockies look. And, you know, so one of the things I wanted to say, Lieutenant Governor, thank you for coming here. I really appreciate what you're doing. But while we're talking about this topic, thousands of people are still getting arrested. About 25,000 people every year get arrested for either possession, sales, or cultivation of cannabis. That's over 2,000 a month. So if this tour takes a half a year, during that time, we'll have about 12,500 or more Pennsylvania citizens arrested and have their lives ruined. Over the next 10 years, unless we make changes to the law, we're going to ruin the lives of over 250,000 Pennsylvania citizens. And that's not right. Well, all the people around us are living free. So, Lieutenant Governor, I wanted to say that I'm a realist. I was very heavily involved in helping to pass the medical cannabis legislation. I was intimately involved in passing the hemp bill. So I know how the legislative system works. I know the process. And it takes a long time. It might take us 3 years or so to pass a legalization bill. So in the meantime, Governor Wolf ran as a serious supporter of decriminalization. I think, I know that General Assembly is pretty good right now, and I think that we definitely have enough consensus that we can pass a decrim bill. Last year, HB 928, Joswiak's bill, passed out of the Judiciary Committee, and so it should be on grease tracks, ready to go. So, Lieutenant Governor, if you could pass that message to Wolf and ask him to speak a little more forcefully and more often now about the decrim bill, and ask Governor Wolf to direct the General Assembly to send him a decriminalization bill that he can sign immediately, and we can save at least 20,000 people a year while we're debating and arguing over full legalization. If it takes us 3 years, right there we save 60,000 Pennsylvania citizens. Thank you.
Hi, Lieutenant Governor. My name is Steve Abersees. We met at Deja Brew a couple years ago when you were running for the Senate, and I had a pleasure talking to you for a little bit. I'm Mayor Pinto. Hello, Senator Buscola. I actually called your office not too long ago, talked to your executive director, and we talked about, I believe it's SB 350 that's going to be going through the Senate soon, full legalization for Senator Sharif Street and Dalen Leach, I think is their bill. I just wanted to tell you my story quick. About a little over a year ago, I was in Colorado and bought cannabis legally, and then crossed the border into Utah, where I was pulled over for speeding and was arrested for a small possession of cannabis. And not knowing what the drug laws were in Utah, I was very scared, getting handcuffed, processed, and all that stuff. Out on bail that night, and I was lucky, you know, I was out on bail. Like, I'm not like the thousands who were in prison for years over small possession. And I really wanted to focus on, like, the criminal justice aspect of this and how we're arresting citizens by the thousands and ruining lives. Like, I'm losing my license on my 31st birthday because of this, what happened. And I'm a filmmaker, so I'm a freelance filmmaker, so I have to go travel to New York and Philly. I'm going to be losing thousands of dollars. And we just changed this in this state, but it doesn't affect me because it affects in April 19th, I think, is when the new law about driver's license suspensions. So I probably can't get any help with that. I guess I'm just out of luck in that sense. I'm just going to lose my license for 6 months, which I believe is 3 months more than a DUI for drinking. I wasn't driving while I was stoned. I just had small possession. That's just a ridiculous thing. Our laws are so backwards. Anyway, we need to look about that, and we also need to think about the aspects of a gateway drug, like someone had said before. Like 25% of legalized states have, legalized states have 25% less opioid abuse, and we have less overdoses in these states because they have some relief. And we need to be looking at that. So when senators and congresspeople, and when they don't, and when they're adamantly opposed to legalization, they need to think about the health risks of people. And they need that legalization is the way toward a better society. And when we can talk about drug users, and then we can talk about drug users in general. Like how countries like Portugal decriminalized all drugs in 2001, and their opioid epidemic went down 85%. They don't have overdoses anymore. They were leading the world in a drug epidemic. Now it's us, and we don't even consider decriminalizing everything. That's a different discussion. But what we can do now is do what's best for our citizens and let us go to the store and not fear. I'm scared living in Pennsylvania. I'm scared on the East Coast of just getting arrested because of what might smell in my car. And that's crap. And thank you for doing this tour, Lieutenant Governor, and I really appreciate you being here and going to all of us, because 59% of Pennsylvanians want legalization, but most of our people in the House and the Senate don't, and they need to represent us. So I hope that message
Good afternoon. My name is Sidney Braun. I'm all for the legalization of marijuana. Back when I was 16 years old in 2006, I suffered a pretty bad accident that left me wheelchair bound with a shattered hip for years. To deal with the whole depression and post-traumatic stress from being hit with a cannon, I was smoking pot. Medically, to kill the pain, they had me on 5 milligrams of Percocet every 4 hours. That was in the beginning. Towards the end, after 6 years before I was able to stop using the opiates, I was over 50 milligrams a day every few hours. And then I realized that was a problem. That was deadly. Ever since then, I have not been taking Percocets or anything. I had my wisdom teeth out a couple months ago. Refused to take the painkillers they were giving me for that. All I'm saying is, from a medical standpoint and pain control, I am all for it. And recreationally also, yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank
My name is Hector Cruz. I represent Spanish people because we are minority. I'm a victim for only half drunk. I'm a victim. My record is right here. In 2007, I made the mistake to do it in the street. They arrest me, and now I'm suffering. 13 years later, I'm sorry, I don't speak English so well. Please try to understand me.
Please understand me. See my staff and get for a pardon. Okay, to get that.
The problem with the pardon is they take so long, 4 or 5 years.
You'll be surprised.
But let me. I've been following whatever the state is doing. I'm just trusting the government. But since I saw you on YouTube videos, 69 News, this is why I'm here. Because I stopped trusting the government because everything is a no-no. We are an adult. We are responsible. The day I got this arrest, I was fine. The cop asked me, if I put the windows down, you promise me you're going to be fine? Yes. We are an adult. I don't fight. I take my responsibility. They caught me. It's my fault. That's it. You know, right now I'm suffering because I can't find jobs. And this is the saddest part. And I would like to trust the government again. Big pharmas, they got millions of dollars. Many people are dying for the opioid, for the pills. My doctor hates me because I reject medicine. The only medicine I believe is weed. Because this is the best medicine we got. Possibly a beautiful day and continue strongly.
Hi, thank you so much for coming out to listen to your constituents. My name is Amy Peters. I am a registered nurse. I am studying to be a nurse practitioner. I've also done training through the American Cannabis Nurses Association and the Medical Cannabis Institute. I want to bring up 2 points. The first one is the medical aspect. Right now, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with opioid and alcohol addiction, 2 substances that are legal in this country. These substances, are chemically created to be less and less effective and to get you addicted to it. Those substances are legal, and they are created to make you buy more and more and more. And this is what is happening to the people in our country. They are dying from these substances. In the decade that I've been a nurse, I have treated countless people for opioids, for alcohol. Never once in that decade have I ever treated a patient from a cannabis overdose. Never once. Never once in that time have I ever treated a patient who ever had an issue due to cannabis. In that time, however, I have treated patients who are suffering from cancer and other chronic illnesses who are using cannabis to manage their pain so they don't have to use those opioids that they will get addicted to. The other point I want to bring up is that criminalization of cannabis in this country has roots in systemic racism. as the chairman of the Democratic Commission, I don't know where she went, her name, forgive me, stated minorities, black people, brown people, are incarcerated at a much higher rate than white people for cannabis-related convictions. It is systemic racism, and it is a for-profit prison system that cannabis criminalization is fueling. It is time that we as a country and as legislators and as people of privilege take the responsibility that is ours to legalize a substance that has ruined millions and millions and millions of lives, disproportionately minority Americans. It is time that we do the right thing.
Everybody, how's it going? Thanks for everybody coming out, and you guys especially, Lieutenant Governor Fetterman. First off, I'm a Democrat, voted for Tom Wolf, and first off, I think we need to give a lot of credit to Tom Wolf because he's the one that signed the bill into law a couple years ago and got the medical marijuana ball rolling for all of us, so I think that's tremendous. Going into my second year as a medical marijuana card holder, it's been a blessing. It's been tremendous. I'm 38 years old. I was born and raised here in Pennsylvania. I have been to Colorado twice, actually, and I would urge everybody if you can get out there. I know there's a lot of legislators that are in several states that go out there just to see how things are going, and I encourage that because I think we all can learn a lot from Colorado. First off, like they say, the sky didn't come crashing down. Teen use is actually down. When you look at the tax revenue created, $300 million, $1 billion a sale annually, I don't think you can really compete with those kind of numbers, especially for states that are in the hole, that have struggling deficits with their budgets. I think in the meantime, somebody also said, in the meantime, I think there's some things that we could be working on in our state before legalization. The medical program is up and running. Decriminalization needs to happen first off, and then second of all, for the medical patients that are paying a lot for their medicine, it's not exactly cheap. A home growing clause, I think, does need to be written into law promptly. And sometimes people on disability and things like that can't really afford the medicine. So take that into consideration, please. Right, legalization of marijuana would be great, fine. But again, there's another step that you guys could be doing before that would even happen. Decriminalize it throughout the whole state. And then adult, for per home, people that are 21 and over could do 6 plants recreationally as well first. I mean, I hear a lot, there's a guy on YouTube, the Daily Dope, go check him out, Brandon, anyway, but corporate, we don't really need the corporate takeover always. I mean, it seems like a lot of states want to go from 0 to 60, there's a lot of steps that we could be doing before that as well. So, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted you to know that I'm not a speaker. I don't get up in front of people. And so I remember when I would run a half marathon or so, everybody would run to the bathroom in a little outhouse right in the weeds. When I did the Marine Corps Marathon, everybody's in the weeds going to the bathroom because their adrenaline's going. So I just went a little while ago. Like that one woman.
You're doing just fine, by the way.
I know I'm not a speaker. But like that woman said ahead of me, okay, for assistance for people that really need like that one fellow said, really need help, I would be for that very reason only, that people get help through cannabis somehow, but obviously through the regulations and so forth. When they find this, they can really be of a need and help. I was a Vietnam veteran, and I know how you can work the system.
because I've seen people work the system, and they'll work this system. Recreationally, like, okay, well, let's make it that we can get medically, and then pretty soon before you know it, everybody's, or a lot of people are getting it because they know how to work the system. I know from my own personal experience, I was very much against it at one time, and then I crossed over. And in fact, before, when I was in Vietnam and I was in the field, I was a machine gunner. And so when I got back into the rear, I re-enlisted to get out. I'm ashamed, but you don't know the whole story of me. So when I got re-enlisted and came out, went back to the rear at Cameron Bay, came back, I was in the 109th Quartermaster Company, and it was an airborne unit. The next day, they actually had formations, even though over in Vietnam, in the rear, they had formations. And so you follow the orders, parade left, you know, about face, all this other stuff. And our platoon leader had us go the wrong way. And I come to find he was drunk already at that time in the morning. And I come to find with getting into the rear that so many people were doing drugs and so many people were alcoholics. I couldn't stand it. In fact, I was a CQ runner one evening, and they had sent me to our major, who was the company commander at that time, and to give him this folder, whatever it was. And then I went there, and he answered the door, and I said, "Yes, sir." I says, "You know what you ought to do?" He says, "What's that?" I said, you ought to have a shakedown." "What do you mean?" I said, "There's so many people on drugs." I suggest I found out because the only way I found out was that when I went to the latrine, which had a lot of holes there for going to the bathroom, there was tobacco all over the place. And I never encountered this. Not in the field at that time, I didn't. And so they informed me what it was. And he had a shakedown, and a lot of people got busted that night. He told me, he says, "I'm ashamed that just a private," I was a PFC, he says, had to inform me.
So, what specifically of your views on recreation?
Well, recreationally, it's a gateway drug. I know I've heard the other talks, but it is a gateway drug. I've taken pride in my heart because I was only doing grass. Later on, I did hash. Later on, I would put the liquid on the marijuana stick.
So, is it safe to say now you oppose recreational marijuana?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right. And your feelings on medical marijuana?
On medical marijuana, if it really and truly indeed, but knowing how, just because of us being human, we work the system in different ways, and people can work the system. Because I talked to a guy who said he's getting 100% disability from the service. I'm a wounded Vietnam veteran. I said, "How did you get that?" He said, "Well," he says,
But you support medical marijuana. And one last question.
Yeah.
Decriminalization of marijuana. How are your thoughts on that?
I understand. When I say I understand, let me put it this way. When I was in the field one day, we were gathered together with another company, and I said, "Well, what are they gathering around together over there for?" And the guy here said, "Because you were tight with your squad. You were tight with your squad." And this guy says to me, he says, "You know the guy who played Davy Crockett?" "Oh, yeah, on Disneyland?" "Yeah." He said, "He's over there." I said, "You're kidding?" He said, "Yeah." And it was Fess Parker. So I went over to the field where they were gathering around.
So decriminalization, yes or no?
Yeah, I could see if you had just a very small amount, sure.
Okay.
I don't think that a person should be taking a severe jail time for a small amount.
Okay, thank you. All right.
My name is Amy. I'm a clinically trained addictions therapist, but I have been primarily working with adolescents for over half my life. I do agree that alcohol and tobacco are gateway drugs, but so is marijuana. I've seen it. I've seen the kids within treatment. I also think that while alcohol is a drug that can cause dependency, not everybody becomes an alcoholic. The same thing with marijuana is that it does cause dependency for some people. Every adolescent that I have worked with that has progressed on to opiate drug use has had a marijuana history. Every adolescent that I have worked with who has passed away from an opiate overdose in their 20s has had a marijuana history. I don't think we can negate that. So part of my statement is also a question to you, that if this does go through, what can we do to ensure and prevent dependency issues with adolescents?
So, are you opposed to recreational cannabis?
Absolutely.
Okay. Medical cannabis, our current law?
I think that would depend. Marinol has been a legalized THC form around for years. It's not often talked about, which is curious to me. I also think, though, that within this country we have to do something where we can legitimately research it. And right now, because of the laws against it, we're not able to do that.
And decriminalization?
That's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Okay.
Because I'm
undecided.
Undecided.
Okay, very good. All right.
Hello, my name is Donna, and I just got back from being in Washington State, where pot is legal, for 4 years. I'm here back in the Lehigh Valley. I do want to say that unlike the gentleman who spoke first, I have seen people angry and out of control on pot, strictly pot. I do want to let you know that I am for legalization, I am for medicinal, and I do want it decriminalized, even though I've seen ill effects. The other thing I'd like to let you know that not just people who have been incarcerated are affected by this. The company you work for can have a zero tolerance to using drugs. If you test positive for smoking pot, even though you smoked pot 2 weeks ago, it doesn't mean that you are smoking pot while you're on the job or even before the job. And I would like something, money spent to have a finer timeline on knowing when somebody has smoked pot and whether or not a company can fire you. Because there were many people out in Washington who were fired because of the zero tolerance on their jobs. And think about it, what do you do when you go to your next job and you fill out an application? I got fired because I smoked pot. Well, maybe they don't want to hire you then. Maybe it's your own business. And if you don't smoke pot on the job, I don't want you smoking and driving a vehicle. I don't want you smoking and operating a forklift or a tractor trailer either. But recreational and medicinal, I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Chris Vogue. I'm owner and founder of Sir Cannabis Apparel. We are a clothing company helping on removing the negative stigma around cannabis. I feel like the stigma has been fueled through propaganda and saying it's a gateway drug and a lot of things like that. I'm a medical patient myself. I survived cancer in 2013. I used cannabis throughout my chemotherapy. And I saw firsthand how the anti-nausea effects that took hold of me, that I never even got sick during the strongest chemo they gave me for that month, and 2 weeks later I was back in the gym. But I'm pro-legalization. I feel once it's legalized for adult use and it's decriminalized, we'll see a drop in allocation time for marijuana user and arrests. More time would be put for the opiate epidemic that needs to be tackled. It's plaguing our state and many people are dying every single day. And all the people that are maybe on the fence don't realize if you keep arresting these people for marijuana, you're wasting time. You're wasting time that should be going after the heroin dealer. Because we all know cannabis itself is a non-toxic plant. No one has ever died. Nobody has committed violent acts. And no one has ever shot a school high on cannabis. It's always antipsychotic drugs. And what is really the gateway drug is alcohol and prescription medications.
I have just a few thoughts. Thank you first, Mr. Fetterman, for coming and giving us your ear. My name is Ryan. I'm a board member of the Lehigh Valley branch of NORML, the National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. But now I am speaking as a citizen of Northampton County, a place I have called home for nearly 40 years. I live a relatively regular life. I'm a college graduate, fully employed. I pay my taxes early. I have no criminal record. However, to treat hereditary stage 2 hypertension, which gives me insanely high blood pressure issues and anxiety, With doctor approval, in addition to 2 pills I take daily, I have in the past used marijuana to quell my anxiety, simply at night so I can sleep, but that act alone makes me a criminal. I live a healthy vegetarian life, I hike avidly, I practice yoga, and I exercise. I am more worried about what are in my prescribed meds than a bag of herb that I can smoke at my discretion. One of my prescribed antidepressants is actually part of the PCP family. So I am in favor of a naturally grown remedy versus a complex chemical compound. On this topic, my mother 2 months ago was prescribed with Oxycontin for hip pain. In those 2 months, I've already heard her start saying, and I quote, "I need my pills. It's the only thing to get me out of bed in the morning." It worries me. I don't want my mom going down the opiate path, ultimately becoming another sad statistic. So finally, I support recreational legalization, taxing it accordingly for adult use, not children unless medicinally recommended. Redirect the sources that we've been using for marijuana prohibition towards opiate reduction and education for cannabis as a healthy alternative to big pharma. Thank you for your time.
I do a lot of volunteer work at the local tech school. I kind of had a trouble past of my own with drugs and stuff like that. So I like to go in and talk to these young kids about, you know, the path they can choose and everything else. And this lady over here mentioned, obviously, workplace. I mean, with the trades, you know, zero tolerance policy, you know, and when you go build all the schools, all the bridges, anything in Pennsylvania, you know, you can't work. There's already a labor shortage with the construction industry. You know, has anyone went and, you know, talked to these insurance companies, talked to the federal government, talked on this level to where, you know, you either allow it or you don't. You know, and, you know, decriminalizing, I could see, you know, but making recreational marijuana, like, you know, just fly to mill, I'm not really for. As of right now, you know, I've been to a lot of guys' funerals, seen a lot of guys go to prison and everything else, and you cannot tell me someone starts, you know, jamming a needle in their arm and they don't start smoking pot first, or, you know, snorting cocaine and going from there. You know, I worry about, you know, what example we set for our children, especially, you know. No one really talks about in this room why you want to get high in the first place. You know, what do you want to escape? You know, what do these kids want to escape? And if, you know, we make pot legal and, you know, it comes down to it where it's socially acceptable. How many people do you think, you know, went to opioids, went to, you know, heroin, went to cocaine and all of that to get the next high? You know, and then I think a lot of people in our society do that, and, you know, it comes down to personal choice. I just don't want to see us as a society, you know, I grew up in the DARE generation. I'm 33 years old, you know. It was always told, you know, no marijuana, no alcohol, and everything else. I wish I would have listened a little better. It could have saved me a lot of trouble, but, you know, I think, you know, we still should continue pushing, especially to our youth, you know, to the high school kids, to everybody else, that, you know, this isn't a good thing, you know, especially because, you know, I'm so involved with, you know, there is so much opportunity out there for, you know, the young kids, for, you know, trade schools and everything else that, I mean, that's a complete industry that men and women, you know, the ones who ship these beans and built this building and everything else, they're not completely out of the spectrum, you know, just because it's more socially acceptable.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. My name is David Wong. I'm a former Lieutenant Commander of 458th Engineer Battalion out of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, along with 365th Engineer Battalion out of Southaven, Pennsylvania, deployed to Afghanistan. The benefit of controlled licensed medical marijuana use is understandable. Possession, pardoning, discussion is definitely worthwhile. However, the claim that legal pot sales tax help the economy is questionable. Cigarette and alcohol sales taxes have not reduced the cost of education or health care, as the costs continue to increase despite the high taxes. One of my friends occasionally uses pot, which magnifies his depression, forcing him to take mental health drugs. One of my former college roommates used to praise how good the feeling was while being wasted on pot. He threw away his education and parents' money and using acid and LSD. Recreational use prevents many residents from having professional jobs that require security clearances or have drug testing for safety reasons, such as the military or first responders. In Europe, THC content is only controlled is highly controlled, and Dutch restricts sales to citizens at 5 grams at a time. Germany only allows medical use. Some recent facts from newspapers: California just made 25% of their projected pot sales in 2018. This is due to illegal sales and higher costs of producing licensed pot and selling from authorized dispensaries. Minority arrests for selling illegal pot have increased in California, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. NBC News reported that Asian, Cuban, Mexican gangs are trafficking people to work illegal pot farms set up in private homes in California, Washington, and Colorado. In Oregon, it is estimated that 70% of the sales are still illegal. Colorado reports that 50% of the high school kids who are overdosed on hard drugs also tested for pot. In California, 22 elementary school-aged children overdosed at a birthday party due to someone bringing THC candy. How can the parents afford the medical expenses? Is this cool? In Ontario, Canada, the number of cannabis overdose victims increased 334% from 449 in 2013 to nearly 1,500 victims in 2017. In Alberta, Canada, the number of overdoses nearly doubled from 431 to 832 victims. Many of the victims are elementary school children who were accidentally exposed to cannabis food products such as candy.
So it's safe to assume, sir, you are opposed to recreational legalization?
Yes,
Pennsylvania. Okay.
because the concern is about how you protect
So could you
kids.
wrap
Yes,
up in the next
yes.
10 seconds or so?
Yes, basically the concern is that how you protect minors from pot use, help rescue drug addicts, report illegal farm sales and dealers, acknowledge that medical sales will decrease to recreational use become legal. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dequan. I represent a company called Canna Cares. We started off primarily as a way for new patients in the state and people who wanted to be caregivers to be able to get into the industry, and since have expanded to, we are hoping to open our first CBD and hemp extraction lab, and hopefully in the future move on to other things. The first thing I'd like to say, it's very important for legalization, is thank this state, I thank you guys and applaud you guys for including addiction to opioids in the list of medical criteria that allow you to qualify for medical marijuana. Now, I've helped dozens of people become caregivers and surveyed thousands of individual people in the state. There are hundreds of people, a lot of whom will get in front of a camera and would come here if they could today, that say it is only through cannabis that they are able to stay off of their opioid addiction drugs. I want to say that one more time. Cannabis alone. Now, I have a report here. I have a report here that was released, I want to say last week, from New Jersey, the state of New Jersey. The only reason I want to mention this report is, as a caregiver, my only concern with the legalization and full legalization is a lot of my patients already come and say that when they try to go to dispensaries, some of the lines are an hour or too long. That's ridiculous. A lot of people rely on this medicine to stop seizures, to stop life-threatening illnesses. If the dispensaries are already overwhelmed, we can't just legalize without a solution. But you already have the solution. You've allotted for a position called a caregiver. I recommend the expansion, similar to the gentleman who's wearing the Keystone shirt, that allows caregivers, not individual people, so not everyone's grown pot at home, unrestricted, but for medical patients, caregivers should be allowed to grow cannabis to reduce cost and to guarantee supply all over the state.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for allowing all of us to voice our opinions. My name is Kenneth Davenport, founder and director of International Rescue Cities Network. It's a network, an agency devoted to reducing stress, fear, and violence in the everyday life experiences of everybody on this planet over the next 50 years. So the entire effort and event is about future solutions to existing or future problems even. As far as marijuana, cannabis, part of our plan since 2005, the National Rescue Cities 11 initiatives. One has always been to decriminalize in this phase, decriminalize marijuana, legalize it, and then industrialize it. So you're at the point now where we've been trying to get things to for the past 13 years. Now, I just wanted to put this in the record, so it's in your record for the hearing. Marijuana should be legalized and it should be taxed, and the taxes in Pennsylvania and Jersey should go for 3 things only. Should be earmarked on legislation. 3 things only. State of Pennsylvania and New Jersey only, and Jersey for all 3. 1, the education system. 40% of all taxes for marijuana in the future, legal marijuana, medical, recreational, whatever, 40% of all taxes should go to the education system of Pennsylvania and Jersey, because those are the 2 things on both budgets that cannot be covered and will not be covered in the future through any other means. Number 2, 40% Pennsylvania and Jersey should go to highways and roads and highways repair, because that's the other thing on both states' budgets that cannot be done in any other way. Number 3, have 10% as a holdout for emergency preparedness, disaster recovery for both states that we're all going to need in the next 50 years, because global warming is real and every one of the states is going to experience tremendous disasters. Federal government is not going to get their cut.
We have to move on to our time is very limited. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're on a cane. Are you able to stay? Do you need to speak now? I don't want to. Are you okay? No. Like, are you okay? Are you in pain? Do you need to sit down so you can speak now, or are you okay? Yeah. You're fine. Okay. Or then we're back.
Hi. Thank you for coming today. My name is Dina Kenny, and 5 years ago I was an active medical marijuana advocate and founding member and now former ambassador for Campaign for Compassion, a grassroots group of moms of kids with intractable epilepsy who lobbied to have the PA pass medical marijuana legislation. As the law has successfully passed, I stand before you today not as an advocate, but as a citizen, a proud constituent of both Representative G. McNeil and Senator Lisa Boscola. I am staunchly in favor of the legalization of marijuana. I came to this conclusion not because I use marijuana at all, I don't. I came to the conclusion after years of researching the history of this plant, the medicinal benefits, seeing it help so many people, and the laws that surround it. And I'm here to tell you that the unjust laws concerning this plant are more dangerous than the plant itself. These laws were made years ago without any scientific evidence to back up the claims that it caused harm to person or society. And as a matter of fact, the original 1937 law was later found to be unjust and was overturned by the Supreme Court in 1969. For 1 year, cannabis was legal throughout this land until Nixon put it in Schedule 1 against his own commission's recommendations because it meets none of the criteria. So the question is, should we be throwing people in jail and ruining their lives when the government's own hand-picked conservative commission said not to? Should we be locking people up charging $106 a day to taxpayers? When the same government that says it harms the brain owns a patent saying it doesn't, that it indeed protects the brain. Should we be punishing people for using a substance that is less harmful than other legal substances like alcohol?
Thank you. We're really close on time at this point, so wrap it up in the next 10 seconds, please.
Okay. I'll just say I respect the fact that it may be a tough call for some, and depending on where you're coming from, I was you before I saw it stop 300 seizures in a little girl and did my own extensive research, so please do that. Thank you.
6 or 7 minutes left, so please,
It's going to be a short one. My name is Barry Roth. I'm against it, recreational. My business is towing. I deal with police, I deal with cars that get picked up from drunk driving. And I'm one of those targets that's out there on the road every day. I have enough people that are drinking. I have enough people playing around with cell phones that don't even acknowledge me out there.
Okay, so you're against it recreationally?
I'm against it.
Medically?
Medically, you already put that in there.
Well, but
so that's beyond my control.
Well, no,
but I'm saying right now that I don't need any more distractions because I'm CDL. And nobody has referenced this point in this whole thing is secondhand smoke. If I breathe it in and I get in an accident, I have to take a test. I'm guilty before I'm proven innocent in any accident with CDL. I'm under federal rules. Okay. That means my license gets taken away, my business gets shut down. If I have employees, that goes against us. That also deals with OSHA.
Okay,
and that's
decriminalization.
That is dealing with This is devil in the details, that you guys get it right, not that you're rushing to grab the cash and spend the cash like you've done all the time.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you. All right, sir.
Thank you, audience and the staff, everybody, Mr. Grubb back there, the great photographer, Senator Boscola, how you doing? Mayor Sal Panto, 1991, where you had the parade here for the Gulf War veterans with Mayor Dodona. I really appreciated that. Of course, being born in Allentown, I was looking more at Mayor Dodona. But anyway, so as far as, I think pretty much what it is, when kids are younger, I think the first 6 years of development, and Senator Boscola, I'm sorry, I want to just thank all your people that you've been helping me lately with, for my recruiting Obama stuff, my Redemption 44, it's on Facebook, all about that stuff. But anyway,
so given our time restraints.
Oh, sure. But I believe that children, when they're young, I think they should be raised, given more, I would say, a safer environment, because, what happens is self-punishment. That's the whole thing behind smoking, and it's just like when people get tattoos. They're doing self-punishment. That it's a psychological issue. But
sir, please share your thoughts on recreational marijuana.
Oh yeah, sure, legalize it. I mean, it was legal in 1937. I really appreciate it. So, Senator Boscola, I'm glad I make you laugh. Us Italians are all the same, We're not like those Anglo people, I'm sorry. But, all right. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you. Well, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Chuck Stewart. I'm against marijuana. My wife and I do a lot of volunteer work in prisons and in the public school system. And that is a major problem because marijuana, the men and women who are incarcerated because of marijuana, they're separating families. Okay, when they go into prison, they're incarcerated. So these kids are without a parent or a guardian. Sometimes these are one-parent families.
So, sir, you're opposed to recreational, but so what do you feel about decriminalizing marijuana, though?
Definitely not.
Don't decriminalize marijuana.
There's no reason not to decriminalize marijuana simply because it has a long-term effect. Years ago, cigarette smoking, now you can't go into places and smoke cigarettes because it's causing cancer, vascular disease, lung conditions. This drug is going to have an effect on your body because it affects the mind and your vascular system. There's long-term medical effects on this you don't know about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All right.
you, sir.
Thank you for coming. My name's Rob. I'm for decriminalization and against legalization. I think that's a government endorsement of it. I have a family member who became a heavy user of marijuana starting in middle school. And I believe if the state legalizes it, it's just going to increase the use in our middle schools and high schools. It's there already. And that's...
All right, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let's, we really quickly, we want to fit everybody in. We have 4 minutes left.
I'm coming out of the city of Philadelphia as a 130-year-old young man. It's a town where it's densely populated. There are multiple colleges, so the plan that I've developed is on the medical front. There's a lot of legislation that's already working. I think of pushing forward for recreation. There needs to be an interest in developing marijuana communities like colleges where people have a scientific standard of understanding marijuana and also develop a language where we interact with police and the police keep that standard of scientific language so that we are able to police ourselves.
So you're for recreation?
I'm for recreation.
Okay.
For medical.
All right, sir.
My name is Jeremy. We're here discussing changing laws to better reflect the views of the citizens of the state. It seems to me the arguments we've heard are that alcohol at its worst has the same effects as alcohol, at its best has more benefits than alcohol. So it seems that we have two ethical choices in this case. which is either one, promote marijuana to the same rights and standards of alcohol, or two, reduce alcohol to the same current status of marijuana. Personally, I think I think it's a better choice to legalize marijuana. Certainly, I'm in favor of decriminalization also, but it seems one or the other. Otherwise, alcohol is getting favoritism that I don't see is just.
Okay.
John Donches, Lehigh County, actually, Lisa's my senator too. Libertarian-wise, you could probably do anything you want, but like some of the other people were saying, I think you should legalize people being able to grow their own. Because when government and it's a monopoly, and those prices will go up. When they go up, the black market comes back in, and they'll be selling it just under. So if they can legalize growing it, that'd be fine.
Okay, all right, thank you. What an incredibly informative and civil exchange. So we have 3 questions left for everybody, okay? All those in favor of recreational cannabis legalization, raise your hand, aye, and please keep your hands raised so we may document that. All in favor, aye. Aye. Vanya, you good? Okay. All those opposed, no to recreational cannabis. Please keep, no. Please, no. Keep your hands up so we may document that. No to recreational cannabis in Pennsylvania. Good. Okay, last question. Undecided, I'm not sure. Anyone else I see?
I just think the children are traumatized.
Okay, so we have, I'm seeing 3 hands. I want to make sure everyone's hands up. 3. Okay, all right. Thank you, Bethlehem. It's been a great day.